Welcome everybody to another episode of Sprinkle Happiness. And I am so excited to be here as always, as every week, because I have a special guest that I had the privilege of doing the plot relationship just 2 weeks ago in Tulum, Mexico. And I am here with Anita. And please share with our audience who is Anita and what is she doing? Where is she in the world?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anita. I am based in Germany. I'm married to my lovely husband, Sanjay, who's a plat and joined approximately 6 years ago. We went to Tulum, had the privilege of going there 2 weeks ago. I dreamed about it 2 years ago, actually. So it was almost surreal when it actually happened. I just had a wonderful experience, absolutely, and would love to share a little bit with you guys right now.
Thank you for hopping on this call with me, Anita, because just like I shared with you earlier, the purpose of this podcast is to share with our community our key takeaways. Because I always was curious what's going on in a relationship trip. Because when I was an active plot, I went to the spirituality and the happiness also in Mexico in 22. That was my very first event. And I didn't get to go to relationship after that. And I was always wanted to know what's going on. What is everybody's key takeaway? And that's what I want to discuss here to share with our community who didn't do the relationship yet and who we can serve. How can we serve our community the best? And I thought we can because we can share our key takeaways because yours is gonna look different than mine. So what comes to mind, Anita? Like, I know we had so many breakthroughs, and there's so much that happened in those 5, 6 days. I don't even know where to begin. But what is the couple of things that just comes to your mind?
Okay, so the first things first, which is almost contradiction, is we started going into relationship with a fight. And Sanjay and I, the night before we were about to start, we just had an argument. And I can still remember the feeling being totally in my head. And I was just like, what the F? We're here in Mexico. We're like night before relationship. Like, why is he being like that? Why is he being the way he's being? Why is he not like cuddling up to me? Why are we in this state? And then he was like, what's wrong with her? And we just had a fight. And I knew at the same time, I was like, okay, I know I'm in the right place here. And when I found out at some point, Tony had mentioned during the course of the trip, he had an argument with Sage, and then like he was about to give the relationship program. I was like, okay, they have fights too. They are not living in a perfect world too, and this is all part of the human experiences. And I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. I know this is going to be good. So it started off like down here, and then it could only ever go up.
It can only go up from there.
Which is a great place to start with. Our second relationship trip. So initially, I don't know how many of you guys have been on trips and are like, you might go to, I don't know how many UPWs I've been to, but each time I think sort of, I don't think I'm going to really learn much. I'm not sure what's going to be there for me. And so with relationship this time round, I'd had a list and a set of goals of what I wanted to achieve. I should know by now, that's never the reason why you're there. And it wasn't. So, but oh my goodness, second time round, even Sunny and I were like, did we even pay attention to this the first time round? Were we even there? Did we even see Jaya?
Wow.
Were we just sleeping during that time? Because this time round, I mean, Jaya for me was one of the most impactful people in terms of the external speakers. I just managed to experience things that I never knew existed, or things that I knew existed, but had never been able to experience them myself. So I've started off with Jaya. I'll continue there for a bit. I'd learned about energetics previously. I'd learned about yoga. I'd learned about spirituality. I'd learned about how to be in touch with the soul. And I'd learned a little bit about Tantra. I'd never experienced it. I'd never had any physical bodily experience that I could say, okay, I really can embody this. I understand what's going on. And oh my goodness. Yeah, I think just when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, when you allow yourself to open up, that's where the magic happens. And it's cliche and it's the truth. So like, I would say my ultimate biggest takeaway from relationship was the experience of what I experienced with my partner. And it was literally a soul connection. He felt my soul. And
Wow.
that feeling, it's like nothing can break that. Nothing can break that. Nothing can just I'm feeling like goosebumps inside
Amazing.
that. And it's not even just knowing, like cognitively knowing, but actually feeling it. Mm, like, oh, just, just amazing.
It was definitely a life-changing experience, and everybody was so excited to go back in the room and work on their homework. It was
Yes.
the funniest, most hilarious, also most personal and touching experience, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I can totally relate to you. And Tony said, "You don't magically get a relationship, you create it." He
Of course.
literally gave us the tools to create it, and it's not gonna fall on our lap magically, and it was definitely the best investment ever.
Goodness. Yeah.
Is in
Yeah.
your relationship. You know, I've been telling my kids and my friends, I've been studying psychology and teaching for like the past 23 years. That's my background. You know, we learn about the science of relationship, how important relationship is, but nobody really gave me the tools, what a real relationship looks like, how to build it, how to foster it, not just with your romantic partner, but also with your kids and with yourself. I learned as much about myself than about relationship. It was just so mind blowing.
Yeah. I think also the same for me. I learned new things about myself and my body. I mean, the homework was it was just fun. I mean, it was probably the best homework assignment that we got to do ever, and every assignment. And being the good student that I was, I did manage to complete all my homework. I'm pretty sure on most days, and I think it's really important to push yourself to do that, even when you're extremely tired and it's 2 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning, ever, because if you're able to create that in that state and that energy when your tanks might be a little bit low, then you have that anchor to be able to do that back home. To be able to say, okay, I've created it there, I can create it again. Because sometimes when you go back home, certainly my experience is, life happens, life is busy, someone's asking you for this, kids, parents, everything is all go, 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 that at some point it might feel a little bit tricky or tiring or challenging. But if you can create it there, then you can create it anywhere. And creation is key. So,
Absolutely. And Tony says it beautifully. He said, when we were discussing the attachment styles, I don't know your the attachment style. Mine was super anxious. And I carry it forward. Like I'm always in survival mode. And he said the amygdala, the part of the brain that governs our emotions, and it's all about survival. It does not care about your mindset. It is literally hallucinating, making things up. And he said when you get in your head, you're dead. And when you get into your heart, you're smart. Whatever decision you make using your heart, I think you're already ahead of most people.
um, it was very easy for me to get into my head, and I have to breathe. And sometimes I think of Sage because she's talking about having a belly breath, so a real diaphragmatic breath. It's really important to do that to just anchor yourself and get yourself back to you, so that you just can feel like, okay, is this the right decision? Is this coming from my heart? Is this really the way that I want to be? Attachment styles. I was toxic. I can't remember what it was called. Something where I'd have to look back.
And
Something
what
where,
they have, there is a secure, there is the avoidant, there is a couple other two types of avoidant.
and it's not about labeling yourself,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of knowing what you might tend to. I didn't focus so much on which attachment style I was, but it was just like, where am I right now? What am I feeling? What am I doing? Am I projecting? And coming down to me. So I remember on the first day, like my main takeaway was, how am I responsible for this? Or what am I responsible for in whatever's going on? How did I show up? And I think it's really easy it is for me to point at my husband and say, well, it's because he's not doing this, or it's because it's definitely him. Like, I know that I'm thinking the right way. And then I was thinking, and then I realized, well, actually, am I really living in my feminine? Am I coming from my place of heart? Like, am I coming from my true core? And what you were saying about fear, is inherently within the female race, body, whatever you want to call it. There's such a high intensity of fear that our brain is trying to avoid. Now that my husband has understand, when I'm angry or when I am mad or not quite myself, it's often because I'm scared. And it's often because it's like, what is she scared about? And actually knowing that myself, especially anger, because that was coming up as a secondary emotion or experience, let's say. Um, it's like, okay, let me peel this back a little bit. What am I scared of here?
Yeah.
And communicate that. And if I can realize that, and if I can take a deep breath in that moment, even now, then helps you to just like, I'm okay. I'm safe. Also communicate to my husband in that state, in that beautiful, vulnerable state, as opposed to the angry, where I'm then a man and he's trying to fight me as a man. Then I can always turn to him and I can always lean on him. And know that I'll be held and know I'll be supported because, he's there and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it helps that moment. He reminds me lovingly. And if I gently remind him lovingly, yeah.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. My gosh. And quick reminder for our listeners. Many in our community already know that the three famous C's and the three famous U's. So apparently guys hate being criticized. And when women close themselves, kind of distant, and when they hate being controlled. The three U's for the woman, what was it? Understood,
Unseen.
and unsafe. So this is like survival, Nav, anxious. She wants to feel safe all the effing time. So if you make me feel safe, you're doing good, honey. We're doing good. Tony said we are sometimes more committed to our beliefs than to our partners. Get rid of your rules. He kept reminding us, get rid of your rules. And many of the rules we just accumulate as we grow up, and a lot of them come from early life experiences that doesn't serve us.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're living our life according to rules, often by our parents or previous life. And then you project that and expect your partner to abide against those. Or sometimes you expect your partner to abide against certain rules, which you haven't even communicated to them, that they don't even know that they're supposed to be abiding by certain rules. And then, well, how's that going to work? So that's also funny. So get rid of the rules,
Big rules.
communicate to, like Tony talks about, change your expectations for appreciation. And that doesn't mean that you would never have any expectations from your partner. It's about how can you communicate, like, what are your desires? What are your needs? What are your wants? And check in with each other and do it in a way that's playful and fun, as opposed to, we need to sit down and have a talk, or, what does that cover up when anyone says anything like that?
Yes. What also resonated with me was when Sage said, they don't owe you anything.
Mm,
They don't owe you anything. They freely give you
yeah,
love. And it just hit me. I'm like, gosh, we're expecting so much.
yeah,
This has to be like that, and this has to be like that. But they got one rule right. They got one rule right. How often does a woman want attention?
all the freaking time. Yeah.
All freaking time.
100%.
Yes, they got that one. Guys, listen up. If you get that one right,
Yeah.
a happy spouse means a happy you.
Yeah. Sure. And also another one rule is never to threaten to leave the relationship.
Hmm.
As long as you know that that's safe, then you can be mad, then you can be crazy, then you can be vulnerable, then you can be true, the real true you. And if you know that, there's nothing's ever going to happen, then that's the ultimate safety.
Yes, that's the ultimate. I'm not going anywhere. Test me. Just bring it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love when Tony said, honey, just bring it on. What else you got?
Exactly. Yeah. Give it.
What else you got? Hey, when a woman says, that's it, believe me, that's not it. Ask him, what else, honey? What else? Patient. Listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so hilarious. It was,
Yeah. This need to build, to blurt, to share, just release. Like sometimes once I've just gotten out there, it feels like it's literally just taken away from here. And then it's like, okay, now I can breathe, now I can move, now I can feel me. Now I feel fine and nothing's actually happened other than maybe the connection that you felt or the safety or the energetic kind of just barrier. Yeah, it's precious.
I love your reminder. What is my responsibility in this conflict or argument? And Tony said it beautifully. He said, you are 100% responsible for your feelings. You make yourself feel like that. You
Yeah,
create those thoughts and
yeah.
then you become those thoughts. And I love the exercise. I think all of us did the exercise where we share with our partner, we
Oh,
get turned on with.
I
I
was just
turn myself on when I turn myself off when I do it to me. That means
yes.
you're not pointing the finger. You're pointing the finger to your own.
It was beautiful. So Esther Perel spoke to us, and it was an insight from her. And we got the beautiful interaction between Tony and Sage. And it was really nice to
Mhm.
see them in their innocentness, in their, you could see how, I remember how Sage was like, I turn myself on when I think about you. I turn myself on when I dream about our family. I turn so many beautiful kind of moments. And then I turn myself off when when I get scared about how hard you're working and that you might not be able to take care of your body. And then she followed it also with an apology. And it was just like, oh, wow. And just that taking ownership of knowing that, hey, it's not my partner that's causing me to feel this way. That's really, really cool. And we actually did that example, or we did this exercise when we were driving a couple of weeks ago. And it was really nice to see, hang on a minute, there's so many things that I can actually do to then turn myself back on because you're just doing
Mhm.
the opposite.
Yes.
Yep.
Can you do that? How fast
Exactly.
can you do that?
We
Like
all
that.
know.
Just by thought alone, like change your story, change your life. Another big, huge takeaway for me was the woman's and even more the men's journey. I had no idea. I had heard of the tunnel before, but I had no idea that it is a natural process of a man's journey to becoming a king.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, so I've heard about it last time and was pretty certain that Sunny wasn't in the tunnel. And then this time around, I've been feeling it pretty much known since kind of midway part of this year. Something's changing with him. He's not quite the same, still an amazing self, but there's just parts of him that are just very distant. He's not there. He's just not the same person. There's something not quite, something's missing. And then I was very fortunate to put my hand up in terms of a learning experience, and Tony picked on me. And I was almost confused because the audience had to stand up from the men and state which part of their lives that they were in. And Sanjay stood up for late Prince. So then I was internally a little bit confused because I was pretty sure once I'd read all of the things about tunnel, I was pretty certain he's in the tunnel, but he stood up for late Prince. And then Tony then said to him, you're in the tunnel. Like he talked about a few things. And he was like, that's classic tunnel. When you think you're there, but you're behaving like you're not, it's like face up to it. And I
Yeah.
remember I actually realized that my father is still in the tunnel. And that actually hit me really hard because he's going to turn 80. And I think for me, it's sad. I mean, he'll always be my king, but there's an element of sadness that he couldn't fulfill his potential. There's also an element of sadness within him. And to know that he may pass while still being in the tunnel, I would love to be able to support my husband as much as possible so that we can both enter kingdom together. When I'd said that and showed my support towards Sunny, he burst into tears, which Tony very kindly told him was a very masculine sort of trait. And I guess just having that confirmation, obviously, from the guru himself, he is in the tunnel. It gave me a sense of relief and also a sense of ownership of, okay, I know what I have to do to support him. And I think what was also really important was to learn about the female tunnel, so perimenopause, and how we are navigating our journey. And in the same way that we will get through the tunnel, and if you get through it, the other side, what's awaiting you is, a magical kingdom or queendom or whatever you want to call it. Just knowing that there's a period, which is a natural process, which is partly hormonal, which is partly physiological, and we all go through it. And there's no way of fast tracking it because that's what I was hoping to do. To like, what can I do to get him out of the tunnel?
I
Well,
love that. He said you cannot bypass winter in 1 week.
no,
It's
because I'm
winter in one.
stealing. Yeah, exactly.
That's nature.
Exactly. And, stealing the potential of what could be. So waiting patiently, supporting your partner in that way and knowing how to support yourself. Because I've certainly realized for me within this last year, I don't have the same resilience that I used to, or things are just different. There's certain, energy levels are different. My sleep is different. And so it's also knowing how to support myself so that I can also support him. And yeah, just working through it together and knowing that it's not going to be perfect and there isn't perfect and that we're both human. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You remember Magda's share? Magda, if you're listening, honey, sending you kudos. Yes, I love when she said, I was looking for my king and now I have realized that I can meet him in the tunnel and
And
walk
walk
with
with
him.
them. Yeah.
And I am like, wow, what a honest,
Beautiful.
vulnerable, amazing share. Because a lot of women are looking for the king, the successful, this
Yeah.
positive
Hmm.
can lift him up, that's always has a shit together.
Hmm.
And Tony made it very clear. You remember he said, there might be some of you that might think, oh, what the heck? I just find somebody that's already done with the tunnel. It's on
Yeah.
the outside, a king. That you're not
Yeah.
going to find it there because they have already have found their queens, walked through the tunnel with them, and never going to leave them. They're going to be dedicated and they're just going to love them forever for just being there through
Yeah.
this whole process. It was so eye-opening for me that we get it all wrong sometimes. We get it all wrong. And Tony made it very clear that winter destroys what's weak.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the rewards, what are the rewards once you've once all of the bad shit is dead, it's new growth. But it's new growth with like deeper roots. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that was my big aha moment because I had heard of it, I had never known about it, and wow. And this is kind of like the value I'd love to give forward because many don't get it right. Just like, I'm in the field of happiness, and I have learned in the past a year and a half that everything I knew about happiness was actually upside down. And the journey all started with the happiness retreat by Tony Robbins in 22. And same thing here with relationship. Everything I knew was kind of like, oh, wow, I had just too many rules. It just don't belong there. It's me
Mm.
that does it. I'm doing it to me.
Yeah.
Me doing it to me.
I remember when you were saying about rules, we had the intervention where a couple who had filed for divorce and there was an act of infidelity. And it's amazing because I'm sure a lot of us could relate to the lady who'd put down a lot of rules and a lot of sort of, no, this is my absolute standard and nobody is us. She gave the analogy of a castle and she built this castle and nobody is going to tear that down and nobody is ever going to come in and nobody is allowed to cross the road and cross the moat. And, she will do everything in her power to
Related to that. I'm actually
protect.
on the same page with her on that. Like, you protect your
Yeah. And you protect your offspring and you do everything that you have to do. And I remember what was beautiful when you have such stringent rules, you may forget the compassionate side of yourself. And when Sage talked about the example of the children and said, well, what would you do if your child came up to you and said, Mom, I've screwed up. I crossed the bridge or I went to the other side or whatever. I think most of us would be able to find the compassion to forgive
yeah.
our child, our offspring. And sometimes we don't offer the same compassion to our partner or our beloved. And if you could just see it from a different lens and seeing it from a point of view of, hey, how could I have played a role in this? It's not to say, it's not to say that this wasn't wrong or this wasn't right, but it's how could I have played a role in this? And how can I, and if this was my child, how would I forgive this person?
Yeah.
And I think this thing with the rules is if you can just remember and if you have that ability to connect with that compassionate side of you, just to tap into that side more regularly. I remember myself, I shared with hormonal changes at the moment, like I've noticed that my body's changed. I've been very strict and very much with like rules, and it has to be a certain way and it has to look a certain way, and making myself unhappy in the process, like literally making myself unhappy with how I am because of how I've connected that to whatever meaning. And then just switching it slightly, how would I treat my daughter in this situation? I would not put the same amount of rules that I put on her that I do with myself. So it's just coming from a tuning into that compassion that we all have. If we just tap into here and less into there.
Yes, we have an endless amount of compassion and forgiveness toward our kids. And we have our rules when it comes to a partner. And we should. I mean, to a certain degree, they should behave themselves, right? I love when Tony said, love can pierce anything, judgment can never.
Yeah.
So the
Hmm.
only way to hold your guy for all the women out there is with your love, not with your rules, not by controlling, not by just telling them what to do and all that. It's just by pure love. And
Yeah.
it was my biggest takeaway. So many, so many. I hope this was useful. Anything you would like to add, Anita? If there was one thing you would leave our brothers and sisters and everybody, anybody on YouTube, whoever is listening from anywhere in the world, what
Yeah.
is your favorite number one tip? Where do even people, if people are struggling, where do they even begin? Oh, it can be overwhelming.
It's really hard to think of one.
Yes, yes.
Um, I'll start with one. Keep it playful. So when we're having fun, it just makes it easy. Remember your heart. Remember the compassion that you have sometimes for yourself or for your family, and give that to your other person. And whenever you have a connection with your lover or a soul connection, anchor that in and just help yourself, like use that anchor to help you whenever you need it, especially in times of hardship.
My professor, Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, he said it beautifully. It's an upward spiral. You spiral
Mhm.
upward every time
That's-
you have a challenge. You
Yeah.
get out of it much stronger, and your relationship will be much stronger. And Tony and Sage were so vulnerable. Oh my gosh, I love listening to their stories.
What was beautiful for me to see is that how real it was. And it was so relatable. We can all relate to that. And just to know that even they go through moments like that and they're still where they are. So we're all allowed to have those moments, however messy they are and however scripted, whatever the script should be. So yeah, just allow it to happen and stay strong and stay close and stay loving. State and meaning. That would probably be my biggest takeaway, no matter how many times I've heard it. State and meaning, state and meaning. It's so simple, and yet sometimes we make it so complicated.
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, Anita, thank you so much for joining me, honey.
Thank you, Nev.
So much.
With
There was so
absolute,
much value, so many key takeaways and nuggets I'm sure will serve our community and whoever is listening to, like definitely to a higher level, because we all want healthy relationships, whether with ourselves, our families, or ourselves, and take responsibility. Thank you for the reminder. Take responsibility. And every time we point a finger, three of them are just pointing back, like we are not innocent. There was another saying during the event. It's I think Tony said it. No matter how thin you slice the bread, there are
always too.
always two sides.
Yeah.
So I hope it served everybody tremendously in our amazing platinum community.
I hope so
So
too. It's been
much,
a pleasure. Thank you so
and I
much.
look forward to our next one. And I see you soon.
Take care.